Hey guys, remember The Flash, Season 3, Episode 14, Attack on Central City, and as you guys know, I really was not that interested in this episode. Not that I didn't think that it could be good, it's just because of how underwhelming last week really was. I really was not that hyped up for this episode. I didn't really love last week's, what would make me love this week's more. And I will say that while this still was a highly flawed episode and wasn't at all what they made it seem like this two-part episode was going to be. This was definitely a lot better. I like the story here more. I thought we had a much more interesting, compelling narrative. We got some, we didn't really get any big reveals in this episode, but I definitely really did like this episode overall. Still not perfect at all, but let's just get in this episode. I definitely do want to talk about it. So, at the loft, Iris comes down and discovers that Barry has made breakfast. She wonders why he's so cheerful. Barry says that being with her just makes him want to do things like that. They kiss and say that they love each other, and at Star Labs we see Harry comes into the speed lab, discovers that HR is putting up decorations, and this was actually really cool to see because yes, I've said before how great Tom Cavanaugh is in the show, but that's never been more evident than this episode. I mean, he literally has to play two different characters in one scene, and it's incredible to watch, and he really did do a good job here. HR comments on Harry's toothbrushing style, says he's fascinated by the subtle differences between them, how he brushed his top teeth and HR brushes his lower teeth. I just thought it was interesting to see. Harry points out he's a genius, HR is a moron, spits in HR's coffee cup, and walks out. The problem is, besides this whole, oh, you're a moron and I'm not, there's not really many other places this goes. And they definitely did have a lot of opportunity to really dive deep into these two and then, show a lot of the differences between them because they are completely different entities. Even though they embody the same person, they're completely different people. So I think they could have definitely got more into that, but Jessie and Wally approach Harry, give him HR's card, and Jessie tells her father that she's moving to Earth 1 and be with Wally, and I like this. I like that Jessie's doing this on her own, and that, not only that, but she's gonna stay. I like the actress, I like the character, and I like seeing that Jessie is going to stay. So Harry glares at Wally, Jessie says that they want to go through things together, and her father asks if Wally makes her happy, and when Jessie says that he does, he actually respects their decision. He's not actually a dick about it. I thought he was going to be, but he's not. He leaves, and Wally tells Jessie that they have to now find her a place, which again, it's very, very rushed in the way this is going. It's very unbelievable between Wally and Jessie, but I definitely did enjoy their stuff more. Why? Because the entire episode takes place in Central City, so I was completely fine with them having the Wally and Jessie subplot. I didn't think it was a problem in this episode. Thought it actually worked a lot better. No, the actors don't have great chemistry, mainly because of how bad of an actor Kenan Lonsdale really is. But I definitely did feel it more in this episode, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where else this is going to go. So, in the Speed Lab, Caitlin tells Cisco that Julian is taking care of family matters in London, so he's not in this episode, and she insists they're just friends. Cisco wonders if he's ever going to find love, and I did like that Cisco, kind of joked around with that, but Caitlin assures him that there's a beautiful, intelligent woman out there for him. She's sure of it, and just as Gypsy enters via a breach, literally the second Caitlin says that Gypsy enters, she vibes Cisco across the room, pins Barry to the wall as he speeds in. Harry arrives, shoots her with a stun gun, and when Gypsy wakes up, she finds herself in a pipeline cell. She asks why she's locked up, says that she told the council that HR is dead, and she explains the last thing she remembers that she was on Earth 2 hunting down another breacher in the African jungle, and Bear realized that Grodd actually took telepathic control of Gypsy and used her to open a breach, because obviously Cisco couldn't do that, so he had Gypsy do it, and they figure that Grodd is there and he's not alone. And on the cliffs outside, we see that's exactly what's happening. Grodd and his guerrilla army look down on the city, and they do a very good job in setting up this fight here between Grodd and Barry. Problem is, that's kind of all they do. There's not really a ton of payoff here, which I'll get into that, but in the Cortex, the team tries to find Grodd via satellite feed. They have no luck, and Barry worries that Grodd keeps evolving. He wants to get ahead of Grodd for once, but he just can't. I mean, Grodd always seems like he's 2 steps ahead, and Harry says that since Barry's seen the future, they can launch a preemptive attack, because Barry already knows what's going to happen. So he suggested Cisco do it, but Cisco warns he can only vibe what Barry saw, and I think it's interesting we found this out, that he only what Barry sees he can vibe. I don't know if that's always been that way, but that was kind of cool here. And I like that it actually does give Cisco some limits. Like, yeah, he can vibe, but only on certain people. So all Barry saw was the news sticker. So Caitlin suggests that they expand the range of his vibe vision, and Harry goes to work with Cisco's vibe gear, takes Wally with him. Iris goes to have Joe rally the GCPD, and Cisco then goes to convince Gypsy to help them, and Gypsy refuses to help, pointing out they have 5 metas on their team. Siska points out that she brought Grodd to Earth 1 and she can get revenge on Grodd for controlling her, because obviously she's not happy with Grodd for doing that, and he asks if she's going to run, says that they need her. Sisko half-jokingly says that she gets to spend extra time with him, and Gypsy says she can't forget the horrors in Grodd's mind. He wants the city in ruins and people dead, and Gypsy tells Sisko it's not her fight. She asks Sisko to release him, and Sisko opens the door, and Gypsy tells him to take care of himself. So I definitely did like the interactions between these two. I think these two work really well together. I definitely really did enjoy that, and definitely made a lot more sense for Sisko than last week's episode. But Henry and Wally then work on the same vibe goggles, and Harry explains what he's doing. Wally says that he's surprised that Harry was so cool about Jesse saying, he thought he'd be a little bit more upset about it, but Harry tells him that Jesse's happiness is the most important thing to him. They're both adults, and Wally promises that they'll visit him on Earth too. The older man says he doesn't know how much time he has, and asks Wally to keep his condition a secret. So yeah, Harry's dying, which I thought was an interesting twist to see, and it does kind of give us, less Harry on the show, but I actually did think this was an interesting twist, and it kind of makes sense why we're seeing Harry, why we're seeing him now. So McNally goes to Fort Reynolds, gives the password. The guard asks if he's alright. McNally, under Grodd's mind control, claims that he's sick. He goes into the nuclear missile transportation base, and the next day Barry's sparring when Harry comes in. Barry then breaks the bag, says he's considering killing Grodd, and that's a big part of this episode, is yes, Barry has made a few close calls, but he's never actually straight up killed someone. But Grodd might be someone that he might have to kill. And Harry tells him that it's an idiotic idea. Every time he does something he's not proud of, makes it easier to do it the next time. And yeah, Harry says everything that we've been complaining about. Every time Barry does something, he does the exact same thing, expecting a different result. Barry is insane. That's the definition of insanity. And Barry reminds him that there's always another way. And Harry tells him to find another way than killing. So Sisko calls, says they've got a problem, and come to the Cortex, and Barry and Harry arrive. HR says that he realized that the general had a military haircut. They ran it through the military database and came up with McNally's name. McNally is in charge of nuclear missiles, and the alarms go off to signifying the launch of the missile. They have minutes left, and Barry then speeds off after it, and he tells Wally and Jesse to stay there to get everyone else to safety if he can't stop it. So he speeds to Fort Reynolds, finds McNally unconscious on the ground next to a launcher. Harry talks to him how to access the control panel. Sisko says there's a 5-digit kill code, but they don't know exactly what it is. So Flash runs combinations at super speed, but nothing really happens. And with 15 seconds left, 6 missiles lock on target. He finds a combo. The missiles stop with 2 seconds left. And Grodd's in with his arm, and I thought that was kind of a cool scene. I definitely did like that. But Grodd's with his arm realized that Flash stopped the missiles, and he orders his gorillas to attack. And I do like the way that Flash realizes that he is able to take down Grodd, but he felt that way in the last episode, so this really isn't that shocking that he's able to take down Grodd. So that night, Sisko locates the gorillas outside the city, heading into the downtown area. Wally and Jesse warn Barry that they're badly outnumbered, and yeah, it's them versus a bunch of gorillas. It's a very dangerous situation, but Joe suggests if Barry kills Grodd, then the other gorillas might stand down. Barry glances over at Harry, says there's another way, it won't come to that. He then tells Sisko that he'll need his help, again, thinking about possibly straight up killing Grodd, and he does make up some good points that if he kills Grodd, then the whole thing with Iris might not happen. There's a very good chance that that's exactly why he should kill Grodd, so it definitely does make sense why he would do that. I definitely think that Barry actually did provide a good reason for that, and I kind of was with him in that side. I couldn't understand why he wanted to do that. So on Earth 19, Gypsy tells a council member, the Accelerate man, that the Breacher is taken care of. Once he leaves, Vi breaches in, says he needs to talk to her about Grodd. He begs her to help stop Grodd from destroying his city, and he says that he can pick up emotions. Vibe says that he can feel that Gypsy is like him and wants to do something good, which I thought was kind of cool the way we found that out, that Vibe can actually he can only sense Barry's memories, but he can pick up other people's emotions. I don't think it's something we really saw before. The show's really doing a good job of getting into what Vibe can do and what he can't do. I like seeing that, but he asks her to be the hero he knows she wants to be, because he knows deep down that she is a good person. She just was trying to bring HR in, but in reality, she's not a bad person. I definitely did like seeing that, between Gypsy and Vibe and Sisko, whatever you want to call him. So back on Earth 1, Flash, Jesse, Quick, and Kid Flash go to the street. The apes are marching into the city. I like seeing these three actually work together. We haven't seen that yet, but Flash tells them not to get caught as the gorillas approach. Kid Flash and Jesse Quick sweep the first few off their feet. Flash runs to battle Grodd. Grodd knocks him aside with ease. The other gorillas knock the other two speedsters aside. Grodd promises the Central City will fall. The only way Flash can end it is if he kills Grodd, and Flash says he's not the only one who wants to stop him. So Vibe and Gypsy arrive. Solovar emerges from the breach a few seconds later, challenges Grodd to single combat. The two gorillas fight. Really well done fight scene. I actually really did like this. Solovar ends up winning, and the reason that this worked more than last week's is because they actually showed it. This wasn't Solovar doing a series of mind control or something like that. They actually did show the conflict these two have. So the gorilla army bows to him. Solovar prepares to kill Grodd. Flash says that stops him, saying that death isn't the way. He promises that he won't let Grodd go back to Gorilla City ever again. Reminds Solovar that he spared his life, and Solovar agrees and tells them all to send them all home. So I thought that was definitely interesting to see, the way that Barry at the last second decided he's not going to kill Grodd. It probably would have been a good situation, but I get it. They want to keep Grodd on the show and things like that. So that's really it. You know, Grodd's now defeated, which I was shocked that it was that easy to take down Grodd, but I guess it is. And the Speedsters turn to Star Labs. Barry tells them that Lila has confined Grodd at Argus, and I don't know if that means we're going to see Grodd on Arrow, but it kind of makes me think that. But Caitlin figures that anything good in Grodd is gone. Gypsy prepares to leave. Cisco figures that she chose to help them because she's into him. She kisses him and tells Cisco that even if she was, he could not handle her. She's just simply too complicated for him. Gypsy walks off, and Cisco promises to marry her. Like, he really does want to be with this girl. This is the first girl that seems to genuinely like him, and that he knows that he has a chance with. So I don't know if we're going to see more of Gypsy, but I definitely get a sense that something's definitely going to go down with this story, which I'm actually really into. So Iris says Barry if he wants to go to the future and see if it's changed. He says it's done with that, and Iris goes to file the story. But why are you done with that? I mean, aren't you trying to prevent Iris's death? Wouldn't the smart thing to do would be to go to the future? I didn't really understand that, but Harry prepares to leave. He tells Wally to do good by his daughter. Wally promises that anyone will have to kill him to get to Jessie. Jessie hugs her father, who then shakes Barry's hand, says that there's always another way. So he's going to leave for the episode. I'm sure we're going to see him again later in the season, but I thought this was a good way to put Harry on the show, know what he's going through, and I definitely did like seeing that. So Iris returns home, finds hundreds of candles lit up. Barry's prepared her favorite food, gives her flowers, says that he forgets there's always another way to change the future by making a new one. He then takes out a ring and explains that it belonged to his grandparents, and he proposes to her. So yeah, he proposed to her. We don't know what she's gonna say, but yeah, they're possibly engaged now, which makes sense too. You know, he really does want to savor the moment and make the most out of the time they have left, which I actually really did like the scene. But then we get to the ending, which I loved this ending. I love the way this ended. At the West House, Jesse and Wally are watching Casablanca. He suggests they watch something else. Jesse says they don't have to watch anything else. She kisses him, says that they could go for a Big Belly Burger. He speeds off to get some takeout, but stops when Savitar emerges from a breach onto the street. He runs off, and yes, we are getting back into Savitar, and that is the way this episode ends. Really interesting stuff overall. Let's get in this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So overall, again, a relatively simple episode, not really a ton going on, but I did feel this was a step on the first one, if only because of the character work and where they end up going with the story. I just thought was more interesting than what was going on with the prison. You know, an entire episode of them in prison just wasn't that interesting to me. This one actually did have some good visuals. It did have some good battles here and there, and I thought they did a very good job of that. I thought they definitely did a good job with getting back into the Savitar aspect of it all. I'll get into that in a second, but really looking back at this crossover, at this two-parter, this really, in my opinion, was not that great. I mean, they made it seem like this was going to be straight-up gorillas versus humans. It was going to be really epic. We were going to have several battles throughout, when in reality, we only really had one big battle, and that is really the big thing that disappointed me with this two-parter. I was expecting a lot more. You know, the episodes are called Attack on Gorilla City, Attack on Central City, and I just didn't really feel the scope of it all, I have to say. I knew obviously Grodd was out there, but come on, I mean, he's not going to kill Barry, he's not going to destroy Central City. That's just not going to happen. So just because of that, I never really was on the edge of my seat or that worried about what was going on here. It all seemed very predictable, and it was very predictable in the end, and I didn't think that it was as strong as it possibly could have been. However, this did get into some interesting aspects. The whole idea of Barry possibly having to kill Grodd, I kind of wish he did, honestly. I think it would have added a little more to the episode. It would have given the episode more of a reason to exist, because beyond this episode is pure fan service. I mean, that's what this episode really was. There's really no other way to look at it. People have been asking for a Gorilla City episode ever since we saw that big cliffhanger in season 2. People have been asking for it, so this really did feel like 2 episodes of fan service to me. I didn't really, like I said, that's really what this was, but I did think there was some interesting stuff going on here. I actually really do love where we're going with Harry, that Harry apparently is dying. We don't know what exactly that's about, but it gives us a reason to see him again and to keep him in the story, and that's something I'm definitely interested in getting into. And then Cisco and Gypsy. I like this pairing, actually. I think Gypsy is someone who genuinely cares about Cisco. I think he really does care about her, and I think overall these two actually can make a pretty good match. So I'm all for Gypsy and Cisco. I'm sure we're going to see her again. It is quite complicated where things are going there, but I think if Cisco does this right, he really could end up with this girl. I mean, remember in the episode he told Caitlyn, I can't really find anyone. He wants to straight up marry her. I mean, I definitely think he's taking things a bit too fast there, but she doesn't want any, I think she definitely does want a relationship. She just doesn't think that he's going to be able to handle it, so we'll have to see really how that's going to go. I think that's going to be interesting where that whole thing goes, and I like seeing Cisco actually have a chance with a girl. Like, this isn't just a girl who's evil. He sees the good in her. He knows that she can use her powers in a way, in a positive outlook, and I really like seeing that. I also like getting more into Vibe's powers. This whole idea that he can only read Barry's memories is very interesting, actually, because we never really thought about that. Yeah, it's only Barry's memories, apparently, so anything that Barry sees is the only thing that he can vibe on, and as well as knowing people's emotions, like knowing how Gypsy was feeling, that was really interesting as well. I really do hope they continue to tap more into Vibe as a character, because that character very much does fascinate me. And I think Cisco, they definitely have not done a lot with it. Ever since the last episode, the first episode of Vibe was back in the first half of the season, but they really have not done a ton in terms of Vibe's powers, and I hope they really do get Cisco to tap more into that, because again, that whole thing is very interesting to me, so I'm interested in seeing really where that is going to go. But other than that, guys, once again, this episode just felt like it didn't really need to be there. Again, this very much felt like a filler type episode, and I just feel like there just could have been a lot more going on, especially when we look at Earth 2. Earth 2 is one of the best episodes the show's ever done. This was supposed to be the Earth 2 of this year, and I just didn't feel the way. It was very much let down by this episode. There are a lot of things that could have been handled a lot better, such as HR and Harry. I mean, that is the perfect time to get, you had the perfect opportunity to get Tom Cavanaugh, both characters in one scene, and they wasted it. All they really did was Harry telling HR that he's a moron, and HR starting to see the significant differences in them, but I really felt they could have done something deeper there, and they just didn't, and that's really been the problem with The Flash all season. Like I said, it's been lazy writing. They haven't been focusing enough on the main storyline. This was the perfect example of that. This episode, it just focused way too much on relationships, and I'm fine with that. Obviously, Iris and Barry are kind of the focal point of the show right now, because Iris is in danger of dying, which that also mentioned seeing. Barry has now proposed to Iris. Let's see if where that's actually going to go, if they're actually going to go through with this wedding. I mean, I get obviously why he did it. Like, Barry makes a lot of irrational decisions, as we know. He's really not the best thinker. But this I can understand. I can understand why he did this with Iris. They only have so much time left. He's doing what he can to alter the timeline, and I'm interested in seeing really where that's going to go. But overall, guys, like I said, this episode was kind of useless to me. I thought it was better, if only because of the storyline being a lot more interesting, with the aspect of Barry possibly killing Grodd. I think that was definitely very well done, as well as where they did end up going. That final action scene, even though it was the only action scene, was really well done. I mean, we got Kid Flash, we got Jesse Quick, we got, Flash in there, all in one team, as well as Gypsy and Vibe. I mean, it was pretty cool, honestly. I really did love seeing him have a team. I thought that was definitely very well done. I'm a bit worried the show's going to turn to Arrow, where he has this team that he really doesn't need. Because, I mean, in Season 4, Did he really benefit from the team? No. Yes, he has this season only because he wanted this team. Flash, though, I just don't really feel like he needs a team. That's just me personally. I don't really feel like he needs one. But I definitely did enjoy what we got of the Gorillas in this episode. I just felt they could have done a lot more with them. I understand that's probably why they kept Grodd alive, because there's more they can do with his character. But honestly, where else are they going to go with him at this point? I don't really know. I'm sure he's going to be like a Harry where we check up on him every so often, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. I'm very happy the show is getting back to Savitar next week, because just like Zoom last year, the show is not nearly focused on this enough. Savitar has been very much an afterthought, and yes, what's going on with Iris has been, like I said, the main thing of this that's really driven the second half of the season. But the main problem for me with this is just the fact that, you know, Savitar has really been in the background, and they just haven't given enough on his character, and it looks like next week we're finally going to get that, so I can't wait to see what ends up happening with that, and that definitely does make me more excited for where we're going moving forward. Overall, guys, not at all a bad episode. I definitely did like this two-parter overall. It just was slightly disappointing from what I really wanted to be. I felt like I could have done a lot more with it, but this episode in general, I thought was genuinely great. I thought it was a lot better than last week's. It flowed a lot better. The pacing was better. It was more interesting. There were some more fun moments in there, and I definitely really enjoyed myself a lot more than I did with last week's episode. I am going to give The Flash Season 2, Episode 14, Attack on Central City, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So, alright guys, we made this episode of The Flash. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. What did you think of this two-parter? Did you really feel it was necessary? Like I said, to me, it just felt like a bunch of fan service. Or do you feel that it is eventually going to play a role? Maybe I'm wrong and we will see Gorilla City again. I doubt we actually will. It just doesn't really seem like something that's going to be a big part of the plot moving forward. But again, we know next to nothing about Savitar, so maybe they're going to do more with that. We'll have to see. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which my next video will actually be for the season of The Detour. I binged the show a while ago and I never finished it. So I'm going to finish it and then I'll review for you guys, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.